Today we're taking a look at the new 2023 Phase 4 29 by Mathews Archery. Just a reminder guys, head on over to mikesarchery.com to pick up any of our latest logo gear. We got plenty of hats and shirts, as well as any gear you might need for your next adventure. Welcome back to Mike's Archery's YouTube, and today we are taking a look at the new lineup from Mathews for 2023, and we have got the new Phase 4 29. So this is a whole new redesign on the limb structure. Now if you look at it compared to last year's bow, just taking a first glance look at it, it looks very similar. The riser is pretty much the same as far as the design and shape. A couple little tweaks here and there for some of the bridge lock stuff that they have added on, but the big change is in the limbs. But we'll get into that in just a few minutes. So the Phase 4 29 is made right here in the USA, up there in Wisconsin by Mathews, and the specs on this bow are coming to you. As far as the speed, it's at 340 feet per second. The axle to axle is obviously 29 inches, and the overall cam to cam length is 34.5 inches. Now the brace height on this bow is 6 inches with a reflex of 5 5/8. So the manufacturer's advertised spec weight on the 29 is 4.48 pounds. And then when we took it out of the box and threw it on the scale, we got an out of the box weight at 4.6 pounds. Now we did pull the harmonic dampeners and we really couldn't get the scale to change. It's still coming in at 4.6 without the dampener. I know it adds a little bit of weight, but it's not a whole lot. So this bow is coming in just a little over spec weight, about 1/10 of a pound or so. Pretty close, but just a little bit heavier than what they're advertising it at. Now the bow does have the same cam system that they've had for the last few years. The draw length option on the 29 goes from 25.5 out to 30 inches. So on the short end, you're gonna be able to get that 25.5 inch draw length, stopping at 30 inches. So you longer draw guys are gonna have to take a look at the 33, which is a totally separate video from this one. But if you got a 30-inch draw or less, you're gonna be able to jump into this 29 axle to axle. The draw weight options are gonna be 60, 65, 70, and 75 pounds. And that is all on their switch weight mod system, so you can adjust that draw length every 1/2 inch, as well as the poundage and the let off. So with those switch weights, you can also get this bow to shoot at 80 or 85% let off, so you can pick either one at all draw length options. So let's take a look at some of the new features. So the obvious thing is the Phase 4 limbs, and that's what everybody's been talking about, is the fact that there are 4 limbs on the top and 4 limbs on the bottom. So for a total of 8 limbs. The 2 split limb option has been there for years, and now they have split those 2 limbs in half again and placed a rubber dampening system in between those limbs. They're calling it the RPD, the resistance phase dampening. And you'll notice it just looks like that black line that was on the V3X. It still has that black line, but that's actually rubber sandwiched in between the 2 sets of limbs. And they are taking the shock and noise and vibration out of this bow at its source, which is coming from that movement of the limbs and transferring that energy to your arrow. So they have taken more noise and a even deader in the hand feel out of this bow by placing that rubber in between the limbs. The other thing they changed is the new bridge lock stabilizer system. Now, obviously last year they had the bridge lock sight system where it slid right into the riser. This year, they've incorporated an integrated stabilizer system with that bridge lock technology. It's just a straight stabilizer that's going to slide right into the hole in the riser directly below a standard stabilizer hole. And you're going to be able to adjust those stabilizers every 1/2 inch. So as you slide that in or out, you can pick that stabilizer in an 8, a 10, or a 12 inch to match your bow. But then you can actually adjust that weight every 1/2 inch closer or further away from the bow on this bridge lock system, locking it down in place. And what we've noticed is with that, it is actually kind of an extension of the bow. It's actually taking a little more vibration out. Not that this bow had much to begin with, but with that new bridge lock stabilizer, the way that it mounts into the riser, it becomes a part of the riser and actually taking more vibration out and more noise out when you put the whole system together. Along with the front bridge lock system, they also added a sidebar bridge lock system. So they've got a whole new sidebar mount that bolts to the back of the bow, and then you're able to mount a bridge lock stabilizer that you can slide in and out on that system for a sidebar, angle it whatever direction you need to. It's going to give you perfect balance in whatever situation, whatever accessories you put on this bow. It's just going to make it sit rock solid in your hand and not move during the shot. Now, some of the features that they kept that they've had for the last few years, obviously the integrate rest system is still there with your dovetail system, so you can use that QAD or several other rest options that are on the market now. you can mount that right to the riser with that dovetail integrate system. Also, their low pro quiver system still works with the new Phase 429. It's going to mount up just the same way as it did, and that's because you're seeing it, like I said, the riser is pretty much the same design except for that bridge lock stabilizer system. They kept with the concentric switch weight mods, so you're going to be able to adjust that with your let off or your weight and your draw length all right there in that module system. Makes it pretty nice for the dealer because we only have to stock one weight bow, and if you want it to be a 60-pound bow, we can swap those mods out, change it out, get it whatever draw length, whatever let off, and of course whatever weight that you need this boat to be. They kept with the same grip system, the Engage grip, so that hasn't changed. Still got a nice feeling grip there from Mathews. Just sits in your hand well. It's fairly narrow and thin. It's a nice rubber coated grip, so for the cold weather you're not going to feel the bare metal of the riser. They also kept with their angled roller guard, which pulls the torque of the cam out of the way, keeping everything solid, not moving, nice and smooth through the draw cycle with that. They also, on these cams, since they are not redesigned, you're able to use that stay afield system that they came out with last year. You're going to be able to hook those into the cams, change out your strings or your cables in the field just by the simple adjustment of using that stay afield system. Makes it really nice, really easy if you do have an accident and you got an extra set of strings and cables. You're able to do this without a press, not taking it to a shop. So in an emergency situation, you get this bow back up and working great. Obviously, their harmonic dampener system that has been there for years, still right there in the front of the riser and incorporated in their new stabilizer systems, taking all the shock and vibration out of these risers. You can also add on the silent connect system. So that's something they came out with a few years ago, and this bow still works with that system. So you can pull this up to your tree stand and hook onto that quietly and quickly without any issues, have to tie any knots. It just makes for a nice clean system getting in and out of your stand. Now this bow does keep with all the standard mounting features, so if you don't want to buy into Mathews bridge lock system, we like to refer to it here at Mike's Archery as the Apple of the archery industry. You know, they've got you kind of locked in with all this bridge lock stuff. If you want to use their system and take full advantage of what Mathews has to offer, then you need to get the integrated sight with the bridge lock sight. You need to get the low pro quiver. You need to get now the new stabilizer in the bridge lock system, integrated rest. All that needs to be put on there if you want to buy in. But if not, Mathews still keeps with all the standard mounting features. You still got the ability to mount any sight on the market in a standard mounting system. You still got a rest hole there. You can mount any standard rest on this bow that you've seen in the past, and your stabilizer system is still there as well. You're able to pick any stabilizer on the market, screw it right in there, use a quick disconnect. Back bars, all that still mounts to the bow, same as it always has. You just have the ability to use their system or not, whether you choose to. So from there, Mathews kept with the same color options for this year. No new colors out there. You can still get the new Phase 4 in a black, the granite, your green ambush for your solids. And if you want a camo bow, you can still pick this bow up in a Realtree Edge. First Light Spectre, Subalpine or Elevated 2, as well as Under Armour All Season. So you've got some great camo options that you can get this bow in. Now for the 29, it's coming in at $11.99. I think that's about 50 bucks up from what it was last year with all the changes that have been made, and with the inflation of things, really not a bad uptick in the price. So at $11.99, you're going to be able to walk out of your local shop with a brand new Phase 4. Now from here, we're going to step over the range, taking shots out of this bow and giving you a breakdown of not only the speeds from a 350 out to a 500 grain arrow, but also a breakdown on the noise rating and just the overall feel of the Phase 429. As always, we'll be shooting this bow at 29 inches and 70 pounds on 85% let off, and then giving you those breakdowns of all the different grain weights of the arrows. So we step back here in the lane with the new Phase 4 by Mathews, and we've got the 29 here. We're going to take some shots out of this bow, give you a breakdown of the speeds, going all the way from 350 grain arrow out to a 500 grain arrow. And as always, we are shooting this bow on 29-inch draw length with 70 pounds and 85% let off. And we'll start with that 400 grain arrow like we always do, and then kind of bounce back and give you all the other numbers that this bow puts up. So let's see how this thing does. Now I am shooting this bow, so we shot it originally without the accessories on it. We got all our numbers and our specs, and I'm going to shoot it here with the accessories on it that they sent to us. So the new bridge lock stabilizer system. We did swap out the rest back to our standard whisker biscuit, so it's the same as we've done in the past. But we took all our numbers without that, as well as the noise rating without the accessories on this bow. So just kind of give you an idea of of what we've done. So we want you to see it as well as hear it and shoot it with the stabilizer system on it. So let's take a few shots and see how it does. All right, so to start with, on that 400 grain arrow, on the 29, we've got 302 feet per second. So putting out a pretty decent speeds, as Mathews typically does. As we drop this bow back to a 350 grain arrow, we got it up to 320 feet per second. And then with a 450 grain arrow, it was 282 feet per second. And with a 500 grain arrow, it was 268 feet per second. So really nice speeds all the way down, holding speeds pretty well as you get a heavier arrow on this bow. Now let's take a look at the decibel meter here. And I will say, as we've shot this bow and played with it, it is most certainly quieter and deader than Mathews has been before. And they have been quiet and dead, typically one of our quietest bows we always shoot. But the decibel meter on the 29 is coming in at 93.8 decibels. So definitely one of the quietest bows we have ever shot. And it is reflected in what you hear and what you feel. So Mathews has really done something with this RPD and then the rubber in between the 4 sets of limbs. It is definitely taking more vibration, more shock out of this bow, and more noise out of this bow, if anybody even thought that was possible. So the overall feel, draw cycle is the same as last year. Still got a nice smooth draw cycle that's a little dependent on your draw length and what let off you shoot on this bow as far as the switch weight mods, but still really nice smooth draw cycle as Mathews has had the last few years. Like I said, when you shoot this thing, you're going to notice that it is certainly quieter and virtually absolutely no shock, especially if you mount it back up with the bridge lock system. When we took that off and we shot it without the stabilizer system on it, it had a little bit more of a twang to it, had just a little ping at the top end, but still, it was noticeably quiet. And when you mount the bridge lock stabilizer system back on it, it takes everything out of this bow. Any noise, any vibration, it is most certainly, Mathews advertises it, and a lot of times it's advertising hype, but frankly, this bow is as dead and as quiet as anything I have ever seen on the market ever. So unless you're shooting really lightweight and really heavy poundage, you're not going to get a bow any quieter than a Mathews is at 70 pounds. Now from there, the grip on this bow is the same standard Mathews grip. It's a nice grip, it's a rubber grip. Sits well in your hand. It's got a little bit of twinge to it. Personally, I don't like it, but you know, everybody's a little different on the grips. It's not my favorite grip, but it's still a good solid grip that Mathews has had for several years. So if you've enjoyed that grip in the past, you're still going to like this grip. It's the same. Now at full draw, this bow sits pretty solid and shoots really well. And then like I said, the after shot of this bow is phenomenal. If you haven't had a chance to get to your dealer or get here to Mike's Archery and shoot one of these, then most certainly stop in. I think it's going to impress you on how quiet and how dead in the hand that this new Phase 4 actually is. So with that said, if you're looking for one of the new Phase 4s for 2023 and you want to upgrade your Mathews to the quietest and most vibration-free bow they've ever made, then give us a call at Mike's Archery. We'll be glad to put one in your hands.